Welcome to the Sooners 360 Recruiting Podcast. I'm Chris Mason, lead recruiting analyst for Sooners 360. This video is sponsored by Sooners 360 on Patreon. To support this video, please go to patreon.com/Sooners360-817 and click subscribe. It's only $2 a month, and there's also a free trial option. And I'll be posting my regular recruiting content over on Patreon. The link is also in the description below. And Sooners 360 is also part of the Believe podcast network. Every team, every topic, everywhere. This video covers the recent commitment to OU by 2025 defensive end CJ Nickson from Weatherford. So CJ's recruiting process was heavily sort of one-sided in OU's favor. He only took official visits to OSU and OU. And in fact, I kind of missed that he even visited OSU because it was so quiet and I don't think he published anything. So it was almost sort of under the radar. He received lots of offers. He's a very talented player. We'll get to his rankings here in a minute. He was offered by OU early last year, one of the many 2025 in-state prospects that Brent Venables and staff offered last spring, when they offered the Carl Albert guys, and they offered Shield Knight, they offered CJ Nickson, so just a lot of in-state offers that were in play. He really only visited OU unofficially during this recruiting process. That probably may have been a trip to Alabama, because he's originally from that part of the country. But really, this was a huge OU lead for Nickson pretty much once the fall started. All spring and summer of 24, CJ's really been tied up with basketball games and events. He's a dual sports star. So his games for Weatherford really stopped him from being one of those camp visitors, combine visitors, and also just taking a whole bunch of unofficial visits. And it got to the point where I think a number of blue bloods just stopped kind of recruiting CJ because his OU lead was so big, and he wasn't showing any signs of sort of barnstorming across the country to take unofficial visits and look at other programs and things along those lines. So really, this has been a commitment that has been rumored to OU for about 3 months. So OU, Miguel Chavis, Brent Venables have really done a great job with CJ, making him feel comfortable in OU and giving OU a big lead, and really not letting anyone else get into the process, and just being very comfortable with the fact that CJ wasn't, always coming to camp events or wasn't coming to junior days or things like that. He visited OU once, and OU was just very comfortable. We have a lead. He's tied up with basketball. Let's just let this thing work out. So where does CJ stand recruiting-wise from a rankings perspective? So he's the number 153 player in the nation using the On3 composite. As you can see here, he's a top 100 player by both 247 and ESPN. On3 has him at like 235, and that's because their rankings during spring and summer are heavily weighted to players who hit combines and coaching events, 7-on-7 tournaments, workouts, those things, and with CJ had to commit that he had the scholarship offer he wanted to OU, so he just didn't do any of those things and just played basketball. So that's a little bit of why he dropped. But I think he's a top 100 talent for the most part. He was in the top 50 when some of the rankings were first put out based upon his film from last year. I think once his senior year film hits, and hopefully we can get a full highlight package from him. Weatherford, we only have a couple of games. As we're going to have to watch a video of him, and it's just going to be one game. So that would be nice. But, I'd like to see him go to an all-star game and just, flash his athletic ability there, his length, his size. I mean, his measurables are top 50, top 100 easily. He's right now, this shows him as 6'5", 215. Based upon everything that I've been hearing, he's around 6'6", 235 right now. So he's taller and bigger, and he looks that size. So he's really just very, very. These rankings, I think, don't quite do him the service they should. I would hope Rivals moves him up as well. So I think when everything by signing day, he should be a consensus top 100 player. And, I think he is, his ability, his potential is, his ceiling is sky high. I mean, he's just scratching the surface of, by being a two-sport star, he's just scratching the surface of what he can be as a football player. So let's go ahead and look at some of his film from Huddle. This is from Tuttle, one of the Tuttle games last year. And you see he's playing the edge. He's very comfortable as a defender on the edge. He also plays tight end for Weatherford. He plays, both sides of the ball. This is not like a highlight reel. This is just one game. So there's a little bit of a gap between plays. But you see him just flying in off the edge there, making the tackle in the backfield. And you see that just, wingspan sort of menacing presence that he has on the edge there. I mean, you can just see his frame, his wingspan, and you're about to see him, just make a extremely athletic play here. He just flies, bats that ball down. He's probably mad he didn't catch it and take it for a touchdown. But you just see he flies off the ball. He's got that twitch and burst that we're kind of always talking about that the elite guys have. And again, this is Weatherford playing Tuttle of Jason White fame. So, he's obviously very comfortable, being a stand-up defensive end, outside linebacker, edge, whatever you want to call him. OU will obviously have to work on him a little bit to get him more comfortable with that's the same play, just from a different angle. More comfortable playing with this, playing as, once he gets bigger and once he gets coached, gets coached up and we'll focus on, playing defensive end if that's where OU decides to use him, because he's a very talented tight end in high school as well. He's got some potential there. But, he just, once he puts his hand in the dirt, figures out how to put his hand in the dirt, he's been good. He disrupts that play right there, gets in the pocket, forces a terrible pass. He's going to be an absolute handful once he puts on some weight. And, he's just raw. He just adds some technique, work on his pass rush skills. But he's got all of the physical measurables to be an elite type defender, right? He's basically getting held there and still gets into the pocket and disrupts the pass. So, really like CJ on film. It's obvious why OU is able to just offer him and not really worry about too much, because he's so athletic. You see, he holds the edge there, gets upfield holding the edge, and then takes out the running back. He's just, I guess I'm presuming for the level of high school football Weatherford plays that CJ is probably the best athlete on the field every time for almost every game he plays. So it's going to be interesting. His development curve will be interesting. I'd imagine that he is going to want to play basketball for Weatherford his senior year. So he will not be an early enrollee. So he'd be a player that, you see, that just blows up the quarterback with just an elite speed move off the edge there. So I'd imagine he'll be a June enrollee. So, it wouldn't surprise me at all if we see a redshirt season for CJ to allow him to get acclimated and to get acclimated and to be able to see what position OU wants to put him in. I got a quick video highlight here of him dunking a basketball right there. We'll sort of we'll replay that for you. So here you go. I mean, just look at that athleticism. Look how high he is. Look how powerful a dunk that is, and his agility. There's another one here, another dunk here. So he's a really good basketball player. He's got huge potential. I don't have a really good OU comp. Josh over at Sooner Scoop was saying, was talking about maybe like someone like Isaiah Thomas. I think CJ's at this stage is probably more athletic. So I'm going to go with somebody with a slightly higher college ceiling and NFL ceiling, and go with the former KSU defensive end, Felix Nduke-Uzuma, who just got drafted in the first round a couple of years ago. He's about the same size. They're about 6'4", 6'5". And I think, when you see, he just obviously visited for the Barbecue U weekend, and you saw the photo, the really nice photo shoot OU does, and they bring in coaches and family members and whatever the players want to do. And his dad is a massive human being. His dad looks like he might be 6'8", 280, 300. He's just a big, big dude. So I think it's very easy to imagine that CJ will be able to keep his speed and athleticism when he's at a training table in a workout program and go 6'6", 245, 250 pretty, easily. And I think that weight will also allow him to play some I don't think it'll impact his ability to play basketball at all, because I think it'll be all good. It'll be all good. It'll be good muscle. It'll be good weight. And he plays a little bit of looking at some of his basketball highlights, he plays kind of a stretch 4, plays some 5 for Weatherford. So if he's able to play, he's going to walk on, could be a walk on for the OU basketball team. At 6'6", 245, 250, he could be a stretch 4, provide minutes there. He's very athletic, got good wingspan. He could be like a stretch, on a small ball roster. He could be a flex 4 easily with that weight. So we'll just have to kind of see how that goes. So what does this verbal mean for OU's defensive end recruiting? Well, it's a very nice wrap up to a great in-state recruiting class. The only player OU's really missing is tight end Nate Roberts. OU has, really protected their home turf since Brent Venables came on board. He's made it a priority, both with early scholarship offers, and using the preferred walk-on program as well to make in-state kids feel welcomed and wanted in Norman. It's also very nice that in-state has produced back-to-back top 100 type defensive ends, elite athletes. Danny Okoye and CJ Nickson is a very, very, very nice 1-2 punch in-state defensive end. I mean, they're top 100 guys. So Nickson gives you, obviously we've got Alex Shield Knight as part of the defensive end group. Nickson gives the class a potential elite pass rusher. And just in general, you can never have too many long, explosive, twitchy defensive ends. They're not quite David Stone capital in recruiting, but they're very, very close. It's another win for Miguel Chavis. And right now you have to look at the defensive end room since he came on board and just look at the transition that's going on. So obviously in 2023, he got PJ. In 2024, he got Danny Okoye and Nigel Smith. And I'm just talking about the top 100 guys here. Obviously, Wyatt Gilmore, Tyler Weiner in there as well. I'm just talking like top 100 guys here, though. In 2025, he's got CJ Nickson. There's a possibility that, we'll see what happens with Smith or Rogbo, but having Nickson in the fold is huge. 2026, OU's got a lot of players on looking out for defensive ends there. And for 2027, they already have Zane Rowe from Denton Geyer, who has potential 5-star kind of written all over him. And they made an offer to a 2027 defensive end in camp, T.K. Cunningham, who Chavis and Bates have a long, long history with that family. So what we're just seeing is, just like cornerback and safety, you're just stacking classes year over year with talent. And this is really how Clemson's elite defense and elite defensive line was built. Nickson also takes a little bit of the sting off the loss of Max Granville to Penn State. And it clearly gives OU a path to push for Smith Orokpo and for Fargo, North Dakota defensive end / defensive tackle, Cade Pietrek. So it's a big pickup. And I think it's a little bit, everyone's like, oh, okay, finally it happened. So, okay, great, we got Nickson. And I think a little bit of he's the highest rated player that OU has committed right now. So I think, we shouldn't underestimate how big a commitment this is, just because we thought that he was going to commit to OU for a while. This is a big commitment, big pickup. Again, you just look at his potential on film. You think about what he'll look like after maybe a redshirt year, and Schmitty, redesigning his body and putting good weight on. You see his vertical leap on that dunk. You see the speed on the football field with his pass rush skills. It's just pass rush ability with his athleticism and wingspan. It's all the tools are here for CJ Nickson. Maybe after a redshirt year, only due to because he'll play basketball, to be as a redshirt freshman, to be a factor at defensive end and be just another weapon for an OU defensive line that's starting to build significant depth, and certainly the room is just getting turned over and rebuilt, and and to quote Bob Stoops, in a great way. So that's CJ Nickson. Thanks everyone for watching this video. Please click like and subscribe in YouTube to help us. And we'll be back with the next commit video when OU gets another commitment. Thanks.